But the very end of this is Genesis 3:15. We have our next Hebrew word. It's Zera. Zera. We would spell it in English as Zera. And that means seed. God says this. He says, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He shall strike your head, and you shall strike his heel. The seed of the woman is in reference to a single descendant who is to come. The single descendant, this seed. Who's it going to be? Well, we know it's going to be Jesus. They didn't know at first. Who is this going to be, right? It's just going to be an offspring. It's going to be a descendant. I think that when Eve gave birth to Cain, she thought this was the seed. It makes sense, right? It's the first child that she has, firstborn. This has got to be it. Of course, she was not just wrong. She was like dead wrong because he doesn't end up being the Messiah and Savior. He ends up being the first murderer. But that's what she thinks. I think that Noah's father thought that he was that seed. Because when Noah is born, his father said, this one is the one who's now going to give us relief from the ground which the Lord our God has cursed. So he thought that Noah was going to be the seed. There were probably a lot of people who thought over the years that this was the seed. But what God does over time is he takes this promise of a seed and begins to narrow it down. First of all, it's just a male offspring from some woman. That's pretty general, right? Some male child somewhere is going to be the seed. Okay, can you help us out some? Okay, well, God says, yeah, I'm going to narrow it down. And he narrows it down in Genesis 12. Amongst all the families of the earth, that seed's going to come from the family of Abraham. But Abraham's two sons. Actually, it's more than that, but he has Isaac and he has Ishmael. Is it going to come from one of these? It's going to come from not Ishmael, but Isaac, right? But Isaac has two sons. What are their names? Jacob and Esau. Is it going to come from Jacob or Esau? It's going to come from Jacob. Jacob outdoes dad and granddad by having all these sons, right? He's got a big family. Is it going to come from, Levi maybe? Simeon? Reuben? What about Judah? It's going to come from Judah. And then there's one more narrowing down because from the tribe of Judah, you finally have the line of David within that tribe. And we're told in 2 Samuel 7, it's from the family of David that this Zera, this seed, is going to come. So we start big, and there's a narrowing to Abraham, and then to Isaac, and then to Jacob, and then to Judah, and then finally to the family of David. And we know the seed is going to come from him. And if you ever wonder why there's so many genealogies in the Old Testament, that's why. There's a tracing of the Zera, of the seed. Where's it going to come from? That's the reason the book of Ruth ends the way it does, with this genealogy that leads us to David, right? That's the reason that Matthew 1 begins the way that it does, in a way that none of us would have started our gospel. I mean, would any of you, if you're writing about the life of Jesus, have started out with a stimulating genealogy? No, of course none of us would. But Matthew, being a good Jew, knows what he's doing. He starts out with the genealogy, which talks about David, and then focuses in upon how Christ is the fulfillment of this promise. So we go from God creating to God blessing to now him giving a promise of this seed, this Zera, which is to come. But this seed also has to deal with the issue of everything that happens in Genesis 3. The world is messed up in a big way. I mean, not just humanity, but we know that the evil, the sin that we have, has infiltrated all of humanity so that creation groans, right? Like it's in bondage, like it needs this liberation. The reason that there's terrible things that happen all over the world is our fault. It's humanity's fault. We've polluted the entire creation. So God's got to make this right in some way. He's got to provide cleansing and forgiveness and healing. Well, how's he going to do that?